Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer. You know, I want to tell you one of my favorite stories from World War II, true story. During the Arcadia Conference in December of 1941, Winston Churchill came to the White House. He stayed in there, and you know, Winston Churchill, he kind of would take his baths and he'd get out of the baths and he'd just start dictating and be lost in thought. And he'd frequently do this. He was walking around his room naked. Well, Franklin Roosevelt knocked on his door and he said, "Come in." Roosevelt willed himself into the room. He saw Churchill was naked there and he kind of gave a shock. And Winston Churchill said, "Well, now you know that the Prime Minister of Great Britain has nothing to hide from the President of the United States." One of my favorite stories. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my top 10 World War II games of all time. But wait a second, Cody. Didn't you just put out a top 10 World War II game list last year? And yes, I did. It was nearly 2 years ago. I think it was early 2020s when I put that out. Maybe May, I guess, so about a year and a half, 2 years. But I wanted to do it again because in this last year and a half, I've actually played several more World War II games that have already replaced several on that list. You'll see a lot that are the same from that list, some that have changed, so I want to just kind of I wanted to kind of come back and discuss some of these new games. Some of these will be familiar to you, some of them not so much. Before I do get started, again, I want to bring this up, and again, I kind of hesitate to bring this up, but when I did the first list, I got a lot of comments. It's already my most popular video, and I got a lot of comments on it, and a lot of them were really, really nasty, and essentially it was from people who were upset that I didn't like the games that they liked. I'll tell you right now, a lot of the games on this list, they're not all war games, and in fact, I think there's only maybe one or two hex and counter games. Not a lot of hex and counter games. If you're somebody who loves hex and counter games, great. Maybe this video isn't for you. I don't know. I'd much rather have us part now as friends than have you write mean and nasty and very small things in the comments. However, having said that, I invite everyone to watch this. Please have fun. And if you have games, hex encounters, whatever, that you like, that you think I might enjoy, by all means, please recommend them in the comments. I love to hear what other people think are superior games. But again, these are my top 10 World War II games. They're not all war games. They're just games I really enjoy with a World War II theme. Now, as far as honorable mentions go, I'm not really going to do a big honorable mention thing just because in the other video, you can see a lot of the games that were kind of pushed off of this list would be honorable mentions, and the other honorable mentions I mentioned. The only one on this list that I do want to give an honorable mention to because I just recently played it, and it just didn't quite make the list because I need to play it more. I've only played it solitaire, and I need to play it against somebody else, but it's a really fun and engaging game, and that is Absolute War, the Russian Front, 1941 to 1945 by GMT Games. It just came out recently. It's a low complexity, lower complexity, I should say, Eastern Front game, but there's still a lot of meat there, and I think a lot of people will enjoy that one. So that's a new game that I just played here recently. Okay, so my number 10. This is a game that, again, I just played this last year, new to me. Well, it's new. It just came out, I think, either 20 or 21. I can't remember when it came out, but very interesting game and a very innovative game, and I don't say that nearly as much as I used to because I realize a game, just because I haven't played it doesn't mean these mechanics may have been somewhere else and I just missed it. But this one, I don't think there's another game out there that does what this game does, and this is Atlantic Chase by GMT Games. Now, this game is a naval game. It's about the surface combat between the German and the British fleet in the early months of the war, and the way it works is just incredible. You've got segments, you've got little rectangles, and you plot courses, and you have what are called trajectories, and you're searching along the trajectory for the enemy to bring them to combat. Then you bring them to combat, you got a battle board. But it's so interesting the way all these pieces work, and it's one of these games that looks incredibly complicated, and there is a learning curve, but it's not nearly as complicated as you might think it would be. But it's a fascinating look at this period of the war, of this kind of combat of the war, which when you usually see the naval games in World War II in the Atlantic, it's usually about the U-boats, and here it's about the surface fleets. And it does it in such an interesting and, as I say, new and innovative way. It really captured my imagination, and I really think you'll get a kick out of it too. This is Atlantic Chase from GMT Games. That is my number 10. My number 9 is also a game that just came out fairly recently, I think within this last year or two, that I hadn't played before. I was actually looking for a good Battle of the Bulge game. I hadn't played a good Battle of the Bulge game. I played, was it Paul Koenig's Sixth Panzer Army, which I thought was actually pretty good by Victory Point Games back in the day. And I played, of course, the Axis and Allies Battle of the Bulge game. And I know I played another one, but I can't remember what it was. But I was kind of looking for a Battle of the Bulge game that I could play in an evening, in 3 or 4 hours. And I found a great one with 1944 Battle of the Bulge from Worthington Games makes 1944 Battle of the Bulge, and this is a great one. You've got some different conditions you can use for the game. You got some different scenarios you can set up for the game, different winning conditions for the game. But essentially, it works very well. You're spending points. You've got. It almost plays like a block war game without the blocks. You've got the counters that you're moving along, but you get hit, you flip it over, and then you replace it with another counter. You flip that over, then it's gone. But it's really good. Really a fun and engaging hex and counter game that I really found. I thought it looked like it might be kind of fun. It was much more fun than I thought it was going to be. I don't know what it was. It's just, it's tense. I played the game. I was playing this game with Zach the first time, and we got to the point where I was looking really good. I was on top. I was very close, and he was ready to throw in the towel. He says, "Well, I'll just play one more turn." And in that turn, things completely turned around. Now he was going to win, and he's like, "Oh yeah!" So we kept playing, and eventually I just barely eked out a victory. But it's a fun game. You're rolling die, but the die only have kind of the symbols of armor and infantry on there. You don't have, numbers per se. It's just a very engaging Battle of the Bulge game that, as I say again, plays in just a few hours. So and you've got some replayability with the different objectives and scenarios and whatnot. So really a lot of fun. If you like kind of a Battle of the Bulge game, and that sounds something that would be appealing to you, I think you should pick it up. But this is a 1944 Battle of the Bulge that is from Worthington, and that is my number 9. So my number 8 is a game I played, I believe, last year. Now, last year I had a game on this list called Castle Itter, which is a lot of fun, and you should check out. But I kind of feel like that game's been a little bit overtaken by this one. Now, David Thompson, he did Postman and Soldiers Uniforms, which came out this year, which is a good game too. But I think the best of this series so far, I know he's working on the 4th one, but the best of the series so far, in my opinion, was the first Pavlovs House. I love Pavlovs House. You got this operational map, and then you got a tactical map of the board. But you're trying to get ammo and other supplies across the river. The Stukas are coming down. They're blowing up your ships. They're hitting your anti-aircraft guns. They're wreaking havoc with your communications as you're trying to get stuff across the river. But then you're actually got the house. You got the Germans coming at the house, and you're trying to take them out. You've got a map of inside the house where you're actually moving your guys around, trying to take ammo to certain locations, or firing certain weapons in certain locations. And it's just tremendous fun. It's tremendous fun. I've played this game a few games. Now, it's a solitaire game. So you're commanding all of these things. The German hordes are coming at you, and you're just trying to hold on. And if you can hold out, you can win the game. All of these Valiant Series games that I played are phenomenal. This one is the best. This is Pavlovs House, and this is from DVG. Fantastic game. That is my number 8. My number 7 is a game that was on my list last time. This is not a war game. This is a game with a great World War II theme, all about trying to kill Adolf Hitler. This is Black Orchestra from Starling Games. And in this game, you are the conspirators. You're the Wehrmacht, Abwehr officers who are trying to blow up Hitler. And you're collecting items. You are collecting cards. You're looking for your opportunity. You want to get Hitler in certain places, into certain situations where you can take him out. But you got to be careful because some of the items or cards you're carrying can be contraband or could be illegal, and there are Gestapo raids. They'll come at you. But at the same time, you've got this backdrop of the history of the war. And the board and where you can go and what you can do actually expands as the war progresses. And then, of course, it shrinks as the war goes on and the Allies move in. But it's tense. Now, the game kind of all comes down to a certain situation and a die roll and how you can mitigate that die roll. Some people have told me they find the game kind of anticlimactic. I don't. I think this game is so much fun. It's a great storytelling game. And again, I love games. I love games that tell great stories. War games tell great stories. Games about war tell great stories. And this one does. The Plot to Kill Hitler. This is so much fun. I highly recommend it. This is Black Orchestra. That is my number 7. That is from Starling Games. My number 6 is a game that I played. I had a buddy of mine introduce me to. He had a copy. It was originally published in 72, 73 BC, before Cody. And he introduced it to me. I fell in love with it. And this was also on my list last year. It's moved down a little bit. This is Origins of World War II, my number 6. Origins of World War II. This was from Avalon Hill. This is not a war game. This is a diplomatic game. This is essentially before World War II. You're trying to kind of position yourself either in a position to launch World War II on favorable terms if you're Germany, or to try to prevent World War II if you're Britain or America or France. And you're essentially have these influence markers. You're trying to put them into other people's areas. It almost kind of feels there's a Twilight Struggle kind of feel here about trying to get influence, but it's, again, a 5-player game. It's really fun and interesting. This is a game I've not played a game quite like it before. The way it thematically it works and mechanically it works. Like I say, there's a little bit of Twilight Struggle in there, it seems like, but overall it's just really a remarkable game and really a lot of fun. I really enjoy Origins of World War II. It's a game, again, and I haven't played this one for a while. I got to find time to go back and revisit this with some friends because it is a phenomenal game. That is my number 6, Origins of World War II from Avalon Hill. My number 5 is another game that is new to the list this year. This is from Worthington Games. It is Struggle for Europe, 1939 to 1945. This is a really interesting game. It is a deck destruction game. Now, I had played Lincoln earlier as a deck destruction game, and I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was fun, but I didn't love it. And maybe it's just the theme. I don't know. But Struggle for Europe just really sucks me in. And it's a game where you've got a hand of cards. You're either the Axis or the Allies. Your units are pretty small, pretty rudimentary. You have various units of different numbers, but you're playing cards. And every time you play a card, if you want to use it, you have to discard or destroy other cards that in order to pay for that card. So your card's constantly getting weaker and weaker. But what's a cool dynamic of the game is, as the game begins, the Germans are really powerful, the Allies not so much, and of course they're going to go out and expand. But as the game goes on, it kind of evens out, and the Allies become more and more powerful, the Germans less and less powerful. And so then it's a matter of just holding on. I played this game as the Allies once, and I lost because I lost Russia. And then I played the game as the Germans once, and I won just because I was able to hold on to enough spaces long enough. The deck runs out, the Axis win if they're still holding on. And every time I played it, so I've just played it 2 times, but every time I played it, and I want to play it again, so I'm just talking about it, I want to play it again, but every time I play it, it is just intense. It just is one of these games that's like, okay, I'm going to play this card, I'm going to move these guys to play this card, and then I can play a card during battle. Is it going to be enough? No, and it's just really like it. The units aren't fungible. You can't make change with them. So if they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not. Really, really like this game quite a bit. Gosh, I got to play it again. This is Struggle for Europe, 1939 to 1945, Worthington Games. That is my number 5. Now, my number 4 is a game after I did my... I'd had people tell me to play this game for a long time, and then after I did my list last year, I can't tell you how many people I had tell me, Cody, you need to play this game. You would love this game. You would love this game. I'm like, I'll get around to it. And finally I was able to get a copy. And they were right. It's a phenomenal game. This is Combat Commander Europe from GMT Games. Combat Commander Europe is a hex encounter war game. But what's interesting here is the cards that you use and how the cards are manipulated. And a card has a lot of different information. Of course, there are the various actions you can take, but then there are like other actions that can come out during battle that you can play during battle that will mitigate battle. But then you also have events that will come out. You can draw a card and there'll be snipers, and the snipers just randomly fire, and anybody in that spot is gone, or is hurt. You have stuff like that. But what's cool is with this game, you don't have die. That is to say, you don't roll die. You draw a card that's got pictures of a die. So every time you need to roll, you just draw another card from your deck, which says exactly what's going on, what the die roll would have been. And all sorts of fun things happen. Guns can jam. Like I say, the snipers come out. That's probably my favorite thing. Other events can play out that affect what's going on the battlefield. It's a great game that has a lot of really good decisions, but at the same time, it also has a certain amount of luck and a certain amount of chance. Not so much that it overwhelms your decisions, but that it does give some spice and sugar to those decisions. It's really a fun and engaging game. I played this, and I played the Great War one, World War I one, which I liked, but I like Combat Commander Europe better. I haven't played Pacific yet. I probably will at some point, but I really, really enjoyed Combat Commander Europe. So for all of you out there who recommended Combat Commander Europe to me, and I did do a review about a year ago, for all of those of you who did recommend this game to me, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. Fantastic game. Combat Commander Europe, that is from GMT Games. My number 3 is, I think it was number 3 last time, and this is another one from David Thompson. This is Undaunted Normandy, parentheses, Undaunted North Africa. This is a great game, and I know a lot of wargamers don't like it because you don't have kooky things like line of sight and what have you. But I really like this. It's a deck builder tactical war game. Again, this is a game I've not played anything quite like it, where you actually have an actual tactical war game that is based on deck building. It does it so well. It's so much fun. Each of the cards have individual people's names, and it's like, when these cards, when somebody dies, you feel it. It's like, oh gosh, I missed that guy. But they have different roles. You've got the riflemen that are needed to capture locations, but you got scouts that actually go and find it. You've got other kind of heavy weapons groups. You got snipers and machine guns that do things. So you're trying to shoot each other, but the way you do it through playing the cards in the deck is so interesting and so engaging, so much fun. This is a game, I remember I was down in Texas, and after I played it, and this is another game people are saying, Cody, you gotta play it, you gotta play it. I'm like, yeah, all right. And I played it, fell in love with it. I sent Zach a copy of this game, and it's like one of his favorite games now. Zach absolutely loves Undaunted Normandy. Great game. I played most of the scenarios, but I think there's still maybe 1 or 2 in the original game I haven't played. There's more in North Africa I haven't played. I got to make time because I want to play them all. They're just, it's phenomenal. They got the reinforcements pack is going to come out here shortly, which is going to allow for a solitaire version. I'm really excited about that because I do enjoy a good solitaire game. I really come around. I used to not be a big solitaire guy, and maybe it's just because there's very few people here in Rock Springs to play with. But even before then, I was playing more solo stuff. So looking forward to that. That is Undaunted Normandy. That is from Osprey Games. That is my number 3. My number 2. So last time, my number 2 was Tide of Iron. And I really wrestled with whether I would even include that on this list this time. Tide of Iron is a fantastic game. I really enjoy Tide of Iron. I've got like everything that was produced, including all the Fantasy Flight and the 1A stuff. I've got it all. And yet I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to play it again. I always thought I'd get it out. I got a great big tub with it in there. Cargo thing, storage thing, and I was thinking, I'm sure at some point I'll bring it out. But then I played this game that is now my number 2, and I don't know if I'm going to go back to Tide of Iron. I don't know if I will. Maybe. But in a lot of ways, this game, I think it kind of scratches the same itch as Tide of Iron, but it's a little more streamlined, a little quicker, and a heck of a lot of fun. My number 2, this is Company of Heroes from Bad Crow Games, I believe. Company of Heroes is just phenomenal. It's, of course, based on the video game. And, it's a war game. A lot of stuff is abstracted. But it does such a good job of kind of capturing what a video game real-time strategy is like, with it being a turn-based board game. But you're trying to get victory objectives. You're trying to capture objectives for weapons, for ammo, for fuel, and then you're adding these things kind of to your trackers, and then you can spend them to bring in reinforcements or to get bonuses when you get experience to get certain bonuses for your units so they can do certain things. I was playing a game against Zach, and he brought in paratroopers. He was able to win the game because he dropped these paratroopers behind my line. It was a bonus he upgraded to that I wasn't paying attention to, and it was freaking awesome. And the game is just phenomenal. It's and I wouldn't think it would, because the combat is kind of deterministic, but you can roll die to kind of, it's just assumed you get a hit. If you got line of sight and that's your target, it's just assumed you're going to get a hit. But you can roll for defense, and you can try to defend yourself. And it's just a very interesting system that surprisingly I like, and is just a heck of a lot of fun. Really, really enjoy. I really enjoyed that quite a bit. I got recently the terrain packs, one of the terrain pack one, so I've got the buildings, which give it kind of a three-dimensional, more of a toy box feel. And then I've also got the solitaire version, which I played, which is also fun. I do prefer playing it two-player. I played it with four-player, which was okay. Two-player is really fun, and the solitaire is fun too. But all things being equal, I prefer two-player, but it's nice to have the solitaire option as well. This is just a great tactical game with minis that just again, it's a toy box, but the mechanics are just so cool. And of course, the theme, World War II, is one of my favorite themes. Love Company of Heroes. That is from Bad Girl Games, and that is my number 2. Well, it's probably not going to surprise anybody in the channel what my number 1 is. It was my number 1 last time. It is not only my favorite World War II game, it is my favorite board game of them all. My favorite board game of all time. This is War Room. I love War Room. War Room is the game I always wanted Axis and Allies to be. And it's from the designer of Axis and Allies, Larry Harris. But I love War Room so much. Again, it kind of is almost like it takes Axis and Allies and marries the mechanics to diplomacy. But you also have more in terms of resources and units and what have you. And how everything functions and comes together, and rail lines. And the way they do convoy raiding and strategic bombing here is just so interesting and fun. But you essentially bid for turn order, but you write all your orders simultaneously. You reveal your your orders, and that's what you're going to do. But then, depending on the oil that you have bid, your units will go first. So maybe they won't get pinned, or they'll get the jump on somebody else. And it's so much fun. This is a long game. This is, you're looking at about an 8-9 hour game. Conservatively, you could probably play a lot longer than that. Usually, the games I played, we haven't played to completion. We played till it's pretty obvious one side is going to win, and then we call it a day. But man, I have so much fun with this game. I was actually talking to Sean the other day, and I was talking to him about Zombicide. I played some of these new Zombicides, and I was just telling him about it. And I said, "Is Zombicide still your favorite game?" Because forever that was his favorite game. And he said, "Well, I like Zombicide, but I've never played a game like War Room." And he's so right. War Room is a joy. It's just, if you've got the time and you've got the friends. And I played most of the games I played have been with 6 players. But then I also played the Pacific campaign where there was 3 of us. I'd like to play some of the smaller scenarios, which essentially play just like the regular game, just on a smaller scale. But I'd like to play the Europe one, or just the Russian front one. But I played the Pacific one, and that was a lot of fun, just with 2 players. Or 3 players rather. I had a tremendous amount of fun with that. Every time I play this game, I'm just giddy, and I'm so excited. When I get this game scheduled, I'm thinking, "Oh, I can't wait! I can't wait! I can't wait!" And I always look forward to it. It's tremendous fun. Really love this game. This is War Room, my number 1 World War II game of all time, and my number 1 board game of all time. So that is from Nightingale Games, my number 1. All right, friends, so thank you for joining us once again for my World War II, top World War II games. As you know, I'm a World War II historian. I actually just had an article published in the Journal of America's Military Past about Wendover Airfield during the war. I love World War II. I love learning about it. I'm so glad I did not have to fight it. It would have been hell on earth, but it's so interesting to learn about and to read about and to write about and to teach. And I'm just blessed that I have a career that I go to engage with something I think is so much fun and so interesting. And games are a great way to kind of supplement that and kind of expand that a little bit. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Please leave a comment on this video. Please tell me what you think, what your favorite games are, World War II games are. I'm always interested to know what other people think, and maybe I'll get some suggestions for something else. I really appreciate your feedback and your positive feedback, and your suggestions as well. So please leave a comment here. Please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Check out my other channel. If you enjoy military history, I do have another channel, Cody Carlson, PhD. I talk a lot about military history. I look at books on military history, so please check that out. Please subscribe to that if you can. I'd really appreciate it. And also, please just like this channel, like this video, and I'm so glad you're here. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will close with another one of my favorite anecdotes from World War II. So Churchill was in Egypt on an inspection during the war, and he was out with the troops. And he saw that the barrels of the guns, the British guns, had these very large, essentially prophylactics on the end of them to keep the sand out of the barrels. Well, of course, these were rather large prophylactics around these barrels, and Winston Churchill famously remarked that we need to stamp all of the boxes carrying these prophylactics medium so that we can show the Germans just who the true master race is.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to fight, but I don't ever win. It's a fine line to damnation, but God let me in.
To take that gets added to your
Yahtzee.